The Jeff Dubay Show rolls on. It's a Wild Wednesday, kind of. A Wild Wednesday, maybe by title only this week. You know, when, people who have followed me through the years on the Fan or ESPN 1500 or 1500 ESPN, I guess is the official way to do it. You know, they send me texts or Twitter or Facebook saying there's nobody talking Gopher hockey, nobody's talking Gopher hockey, and I told them I was going to do a hockey show on Wednesdays on my podcast, but my two co-hosts who are not here. One's in the very good reasons. We'll go over the reasons quickly. Scott Schweitz is in Hawaii, so I mean that's all right. I mean I can give him a pass on that.
We'll take that.
And Tony Dean he's at the police academy. He's out there protecting the world, and he was a Marine. He was a Marine too, so I can give him a pass on that one too. But we are thrilled to have Wally Shaver step right into the breach. A man whose career highlight, I'm sure, was working with me for the season opener against Mercyhurst. Remember, I stepped right into the.
Yeah.
What happened? Frank was at like death's door that night, wasn't he?
I believe he was. Yeah, he was decidedly ill, and I'm just glad that you were around and available.
It's just unfortunate for me. He got better. No, I'm just kidding, Frank. I don't mean that. I like Frank. I'm just kidding. So it's this. I see Tony out at working and Scott lounging in the South Pacific. I thought, you know what, this is my week to be a little sneaky and do an end run and get some Gopher hockey talk on. So I was actually thinking about maybe getting you and Frank on, but I'm not sure you like each other that much, so I didn't want to risk it.
See each other enough?
You're like an old married couple. It's like, all right.
We've been living together on the road here the last couple of weeks, out in Michigan State and Boston the week before that. So.
Oh, that's right. Of course. I just asked you if you found those games online, but you were there calling them out east.
Yeah,
what an idiot I am. I mean, sometimes I can just be a moron.
No.
I mean, seriously, I'm asking the play-by-play voice of the Gophers if he managed to find the games on the internet a couple weeks ago.
Did you catch that game?
What an idiot! What an absolute idiot! So anyway, we are Gopher hockey fans. You get paid today. You get your Gopher hockey talk. We're going to talk what's been a really a first half of extremes. I mean, they've got some nice wins on the resume, some really impressive efforts on the resume, and some oh my God moments on the resume. But I personally, and this is not going to the excuse card. This is not to be an apologist. But I was curious if you agree with me on this, Wally. That this team has the look of a veteran team with a championship pedigree. I'm not gonna say they don't care, but they're not going to go balls to the wall in November. They're not going to panic. And Don's too smart to go to the whip in November.
He said something a couple of weeks ago after the loss to Northeastern that he says, sometimes you have a team that you need to give them a boot up the rear. Mm-hmm. And this is one of those teams. Yeah. And so they had a serious meeting. I believe it was after the Duluth series. Because we came out, we played very well against Boston College, beat them 6-2, and then lost to Northeastern, who were really ramped up to play. And it's a very good team too, that Northeastern team. A lot of people shouldn't take that record that they currently have too lightly, because it's a good veteran hockey club that's just struggled to get out of the chutes, a little bit like us. But big picture is this: the Gophers go into this month-long break now 9-4-1. And I think there's a lot of teams in college hockey that would love to have a record that good.
Well, that's the thing. You could look to our not-so-friendly neighbors to the northwest. In the Dave Hackstall years, I mean, their template has been to maybe hover around 500 until Christmas. Yeah. But guess who's always around when it's time for the Frozen Four? And I know they haven't won a title. Trust me. I know they haven't won a title under Dave Hackstall. But to me, when it comes to college hockey, the key to a national championship is just be there. I mean, it's a numbers game. The more often you're there, you keep going to the barbershop, you're going to get your hair cut.
Yep.
I mean, we've seen weird things happen. Michigan State and Yale won national championships, and neither team was very good that year.
No.
I'll tell you what, they were both pretty ordinary hockey teams.
They were.
So it's just a matter of you're playing single elimination in a sport that's not made for it. Just keep getting there. And Hackstall has made an art form out of being mediocre until Christmas and then just saying, well, bleep you, here we go.
Yeah.
And that's all that matters. As long as you're there, and I'm quite convinced that the Gophers are going to be in the mix. I'm not. You can never guarantee anyone's going to a Frozen Four. Weird things happen in regionals too, which we've seen.
Well,
Yale.
and I think we've got a good chance to get there.
I do too.
I certainly don't sell that out.
What are the sites? Give me the regional sites.
God, I knew you
Are they
were
both
gonna
in
ask
Michigan?
that. I believe they are. I think Grand Rapids has one. Toledo, I think, has one.
Oh, okay. So those are the two west.
And then a couple of out east, yeah.
Now, I tell you what, Van Andel Arena and the city itself, of Grand Rapids and the hotel right on the river there and the rink down. I think that's a perfect size city. and venue for a regional.
It is.
Because you don't want to be in Columbus going to the Nationwide Center or the whatever the hell, the Value City Arena for a regional. You know what I mean? The X is too big for a regional.
It is. And you just don't get crowds.
No, you don't.
It's tough to draw to the regionals, and I know there has been a lot of talk about trying to get the regionals back on a campus environment, but then a lot of people say, well, then some team's going to have a home ice advantage.
Sure.
And that may be true, but you're going to pack in a lot more people and have a really lively atmosphere, where going into some of these cavernous buildings right now, you do miss that.
So it would be seated, you're telling me? Because, I mean, they're still playing campus locations. I mean, Mariucci is hosted. Yost is hosted.
Yeah.
And I think, is Amsoil hosted? Yeah. I mean, they should. That's another place that's just about the right size.
No, that would be perfect size.
I think they've done hosted the women's up there.
Yeah, I believe you're right.
Yeah, so, I mean, to me, that's what you look for a regional, like a 6,000, to 6 to 10,000 seat arena.
Yeah.
Hopefully on a campus.
Well, you want the atmosphere, and we played out, a great example of that was earlier this year when we played out in Notre Dame with the Icebreaker tournament. Well, we played Duluth in the afternoon game, and honest to God, there wasn't 300-400 people in the stands.
Well, we've all seen the first semifinal at the Dodge Holiday Classic many times. I mean, it's just there's nobody there.
No,
I mean, you could call out a guy's name, and he'd hear you from the nosebleeds. Hey, get back on defense! You look up at you. I got it. I mean, it's just it's. I don't know what you do. I mean, when you have one ticket that gets you into multiple games, I mean, it's just there's always a game, whether it's a regional or a holiday tournament. There's always one of the two games that's going to have the local interest, and people don't want to sit there for 6 hours.
Yeah, and that's the tough part. And I think it's something you just have to accept. That's the way college hockey is. And the NCAA probably isn't going to change that unless there is so much opposition down the road. But I don't see any changes at all on the horizon to go to a smaller building or on-campus environment.
Right. I mean, it doesn't seem like that long ago.
No.
Where I mean, you basically during the course of the regular season, you had determined your fate for not only your conference playoffs but for the NCAA tournament. I mean, I can still clearly remember the 2-game total goal series being called by you and Frank against Michigan State in 1988 to get him to Lake Placid. I remember Frank yelling, "They're going to Lake Placid," but I mean, we blew the Saturday game. Do you remember that?
Yes.
One of the Millers went off. Kip or Kevin
Kip.
Jesus, you got a better memory than me. But and then I think Jake Cates and Lance Werner scored a couple of big goals in the third to get us, or the sixth period to get us over the hump. But I mean, that's never leaving your campus to get to a Final Four at the time, now Frozen Four. It's a different ballgame.
Yeah, and it was a different setup back then because the 2-game total goal. Some people didn't like that, but in a way I did. But if you had a weaker opponent, you could just blow them right out, and it would be a very boring second game. But
I think best of 3 is better. I think it's preferable.
Yeah, I do too. But unfortunately, now that we went, I think everybody in the coaching regime in college hockey at that time, they wanted to see a 16-team tournament.
Mm-hmm.
And the NCAA has always had this policy that, you got to have 64 teams before you can do that.
Mm-hmm.
They did make an exception with college hockey because of I think, how solid the fan base really is all the way around. But once you went to that 16-team format, then you had to have a single elimination at 4 different sites. And I think overall, that's worked out really, really well.
Yeah.
But, like you said earlier, Jeff, man, you get in a single game, and anything can happen.
Well, look at the Yale game. I mean, God bless Ben Marshall. You can just say he was sick to his stomach when he turned over from behind the net, and his team's down in the first shift.
Right.
And Wilcox never even saw it because he didn't expect it to come out. And you could I wanted to just drive out to where the hell were you for that one? Where was that one?
That was in Grand Rapids.
I wanted to drive out to Grand Rapids and hug the kid. I just felt.
Yeah.
I mean,
nobody felt worse.
And I'll tell you what, you've experienced this too, Wally, and I tell people this all the time. I don't know that anybody would ever understand the emotion in an NCAA tournament losing locker room postgame. It is heavy. I mean, it is. I mean, I've gone into 2 of them, and I just try to get out without killing myself.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it is. You got players who just bled for the program, and they won't take their jersey off.
Right.
I mean, that was 2 hours after the game, and like the worst is 04. Because you got the Patolny Kowalska Riddle group, and I mean, you got to cut the jersey off Grant Patolny. I mean, it's just. I was there in the 05 Frozen Four in Columbus, and I mean Judd Stevens. I mean, if I could have done anything to help this kid, I mean, he was forlorn.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought somebody better put him on watch tonight because I mean, keep an eye. And I don't mean to make light. They just when a career ends that abrupt, nobody ever expects it to happen. When you play for Minnesota, you don't expect to lose in the tournament. I mean, you do, but I mean, you don't go into a game thinking, well, we're in trouble now. So when it ends abruptly and without warning and harshly.
And it's lot of tears get shed. These
Yeah.
are big, tough guys.
Yeah.
But boy, when you go out, bam, like that, all of a sudden it's over.
Yep.
And you're a senior. Your
Yeah.
college career's done. Now you got to get into life.
Yeah, I mean, and especially the guys, like you said, the seniors and the guys who are in the C, the guys who like bled for the program. And Tony and Judd Stevens are two perfect examples of guys who bled for this program.
Yeah.
Well, and like you guys are saying too, because it's hockey, it can end so flukily, if that's a word, or
Yeah.
to coin a phrase. So that's why I like too what you're saying too. Or it'd be better if it were the series, because being hockey, you can have such a strange goal, and that decides the game, and you really would love to see a couple of games.
But you can say the same thing
series.
about the NCAA basketball tournament.
Sure.
That's
too.
true.
I mean,
And that's what makes it great.
That's
That's
another sport that you should have a couple of games to really judge who's the better team.
Yeah, but that single game is what makes it great. That
Yep.
single game is how a mid-major beats Duke or something.
Yeah.
I mean, that's they won't do it in a series. It's the beauty of the tournament rather than the detriment, in my opinion. With hockey, I mean, if you're a good program, you got to realize there's going to be a year or two where you don't get a bounce. I mean, I don't even like to say the words Holy Cross, but God, did they have some horseshit goals in that game. Briggs, God bless Kellen Briggs, but was he drunk? I mean, my God, I mean, he was never stellar in the postseason. He was kind of a regular season goaltender. But that game against Holy Cross, I mean, he just wasn't there mentally.
No.
I mean, it was. Well, speaking of the goaltenders not being there mentally, I mean, we don't have to just break down this year's Gopher team. You and I have, a treasure trove of Gopher hockey stories. But this is one of my favorites. We're at St. Cloud, and Frazee's in the net, and I'm working for FSN, so I'm standing there with my suit right behind the net, right by the goal judge with Gorg, and we're like 2 minutes into the game, and Gorg, he's a former goaltender, and he looks at me and goes, Puffy, I'm telling you, I got a hunch here. Frazee's on his toes. He's looking sharp. He's looking comfortable. Boom, 2 goals from center ice. 2! And the second one, I think, got disallowed or something.
Yeah.
But you remember Lucia came off the bench and gave him the death stare. I mean,
no, do you remember what happened before the death stare?
No.
He let in the one from center ice.
I'm standing next to Gore going, you're an idiot.
The period is not over.
Right.
There's like 3 seconds left. He's leaving the ice to go to the dressing room.
Yeah, he was.
And they're coming up ice. Thank God nobody for St. Cloud looked up.
What a head case.
They would have seen an empty net. And that is a glare. If stares could kill,
that was the meanest I've ever seen.
He was buried right there.
I wet myself. I mean, I was standing behind him. I thought it was intended for me.
That's when I was working with Glenn Sommer at the time, and
Yeah.
Glenn's like, "What the hell's going on down here?"
And there's 2 topics I wanted to get to on a personal note because. It's just they're 2 of the best, classiest people ever to grace this market for hockey or otherwise. I've had numerous people tweet me to ask, you got to ask Wally how his dad is.
Dad's doing great. In fact,
People love your dad.
Yeah, they do, and I get that a lot from a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And he's doing fine. He just I just talked to my mom. It was about an hour ago, and he was out doing a little running around Qualicum Beach up there. But for a couple of people that are 87 years old, they still live on their own. They're in a single place condominium, and they still get out. They don't have any nursing aid or anything like that. They've broken down in the last year and have a cleaning lady coming in now once a week.
Take care of your parents, Wally.
I was just up there Labor Day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
See, look at that. I should have known. Then the other, of course, is Glenn Sonmore, who I got to know on a personal level, through recovery. And I mean, I would go to meetings with him, and I don't know that anybody in this town in the last 30 years has helped lead more people to a sober life than Glenn Sonmore.
Yeah.
I mean, he's forever accessible, forever approachable. He got sober in the early 80s, so he spent like 30, 40 years doing this, and then the way it grows exponentially. The guy you sponsors some guys, and he sponsors. The Glenn Sonmore sobriety tree. I mean, you got coaching trees in sports. The Sonmore sobriety tree is a redwood.
It's extensive, and I think, I don't know, Glenn and I used to talk quite a bit about that in our travels around the WCHA territory when we had to drive a lot, but there's a lot of big-time people, big-name people, celebrity type of people that he has helped over the years, too. So we never got into a lot of names. But but it's what he contributed there was probably as much as he ever contributed to the coaching fraternity in hockey.
I mean, and the stories he tells, I mean, it really brings it home. I mean, like in Toronto, like they lose a game and they're not flying out till the next morning, and he doesn't even show up at the hotel. His room doesn't get slept in. He just staggers, drunkenly onto the team bus, and Louis, GM at the time, leans over and says, "I know what I'm going to get you for Christmas, Glenn. I'm going to get you a bloodshot glass eye to match your real one."
Louis always said, Glenn, I know when you're drinking because your glass eye is clear and your good eye is bloodshot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, talk about good people. I mean, Lou Nanny. There are a number of things that I miss about working at 1500 ESPN, but most of them are related to people. I miss doing the Lucia show with you and Don at the Commons Hotel, and I miss having our weekly spot with Lou. I mean, our weekly spot with Paul Molitor, our weekly spot with Lou Nanny. I mean, these are reasons I got out of bed for these things. I mean, you look forward to them. I mean, Lou, how old is Lou? Because he's still sharp as a tack.
Yeah, he is. He's got to be
102, 103.
I'm glad you said that.
No, at least in the 90s.
Well, yeah, I could wake up with a horse head in my bed, couldn't I? Yeah. I mean, he told us a story about going to Italy and going to Sicily and kind of like the way Don Corleone did it in The Godfather 2. And as he's telling the story, I'm like, I say to him, were like people kissing your ring? I mean, did you like hide a gun behind a can of olive oil and just come up? I mean, it sounded like a scene from The Godfather. I mean, like the generations of nannies that are still in Sicily speaking Italian, like coming up to him and it was a scene out of The Godfather 2. But I mean, sometimes I forget Louis a mobster. No, he's not. He's just got those kind of. He's just got Italian ties.
He's a type A personality who's always on the go, and but he's just a hockey stud in this market. I mean, we've been around Louis since. The North Stars started up back in 1967.
He's a hobnobber too. I mean, he knows celebrity. I mean, he hangs with celebrities.
Yeah.
Like he was telling us last year about, he's trying to get, Tyler recruited. He was really disappointed that the Gophers just didn't have room for him, or didn't show interest. I really thought that when Vanelli skipped, that maybe that would open something up for him. But he was up in, I think it was Vancouver, somewhere in Western Canada, and he was hanging. I mean, this is the way he tells it casually on our show. Well, I was hanging out with Michael Bublé. I mean, like, okay, whatever. And Michael Bublé owns like a junior. He's a huge hockey guy. He's Canadian.
Yeah.
But he owns a junior team.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And he was trying to get Lou to send his kid up to play for him in Canadian junior.
Oh, okay.
But Lou's a college first kind of a guy. You get the education. And, he's always had the proper priorities. But I tell you what, I joke about this on Facebook all the time. You get friend suggestions, people who you might know, they think you might know, might want to have a friend on Facebook, based on, the people you know and the people they know. Ever since I became Facebook friends with Lou Nanny, they've been. I mean, I've had them suggest Billy Crystal, Bill Murray, Jennifer Aniston, Courtney Cox. I'm like, way to go, Lou! Way to get me Lou's got me in the circles. It's
keep sending those ladies this way.
I mean, Lou, if you know Lou. You're hobnobbing. You're getting inside the velvet rope. I mean, that's just all there is to it. But let's get back a little bit to the first half of the season, because we know that this team's pretty good. And the one thing they cannot afford to lose, or the one guy, to me, other than Wilcox, the one guy they cannot lose is Brady Shea, and they've lost him twice. And let's not forget, he was out for that Duluth weekend.
That's right.
I mean, and he is the pillar on the blue line. I know Mike Riley is the most skilled defenseman in college hockey. I mean, not just here. He's the most skilled in college hockey. And the Big Ten first star of the week, by the way, with a 5-point weekend. And I didn't realize this, the first defenseman in the vast history of Big Ten hockey to be the first star. Not once last year.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, they posted that on Facebook. Get into Facebook. Come on, Wally, you're not 90 for God's sake. But I mean, it was kind of a funny post. Said, first defenseman in the history of Big Ten hockey to win the first star. It's like, in a whole year and a half. But you think somebody would have broken through last year and done it once, like Riley. But no,
Riley's had a great year. I mean, he's tied with Kyle Rowell right now for the team scoring lead, and just had a huge weekend there. We know he's got such great skating style. He's such a fluid skater, and I think as important.
Looks like he's 12 years old.
His lateral movement is just incredible, and he's just a headsy guy. He knows how to make that pass. But you're right about Brady Shea. Missing him, this guy, we can't forget, was a first-round draft pick of the New York Rangers.
A guy his size shouldn't skate that well. I mean, he's got great feet, phenomenal feet.
And he's smart. He makes good first passes. He's great to get us out of the zone. And he's such a big, studly guy, too. He's hard to move, and he's a guy that, when we had him out of the lineup, you could tell the physical presence was lacking on the blue line.
Absolutely. And I think a big leadership element on that blue line, too. I mean, he's Sergeant Hulka. He's the big toe on that.
Well, we're hoping he won't be out that long, and fortunately, it happened in the last game before we go into a month-long break. We'll see how ready he is once we get back to the Mariucci Classic January 2nd.
Fortunate for the team, but I don't want to speculate too much, but if it's a concussion, not too good for Brady in his finals. I mean, I hope they give him some dispensation on those. if that's
it's an upper body injury, but it's not a concussion.
Okay, well that's good. That's good. You never when they say upper body, I mean it could be your belly button to your top of your ear.
Exactly.
I mean,
it could be a bad haircut.
And I understand that. I mean, people complain frequently about the lack of specificity of the hockey injury. But I mean, you want somebody digging his stick into your groin because you have listed as groin? I mean, you can't do that.
No.
I mean, I remember when Matty Kowalska was playing against. He had a bad hernia. I don't know if you remember, it was his junior or senior year. He had a bad hernia. I mean, it just hurt him to skate.
Yeah.
And the last weekend before layoff, of all teams, who's the worst team you want to play if somebody knows you got an injury? North Dakota came to Mariucci, and it's like not many people knew, and he trusted me to know because he knows I'm not gonna want North Dakota guys poking on my boy Matty. But I mean, can you imagine? I mean, in all honesty, I mean, I'm not playing it up. If a guy, but this wouldn't have been Finley. This would have been pre-Finley. This would have been Matt Green, maybe. I mean, if a guy like Matt Green knows about you have that Matt Kowalski's got a hernia, you'd think he's not going to get it. Oh, yeah. He's not the only one either.
Yeah.
Oh, they're going to be playing tetherball with it. They're going to be whacking it. They're going to be playing a little game of squash. But it is what it is. But but you talk about this team being a team that needs a kick in the rear, and to me, that typically does come from a team that is a veteran team that's had success and knows what how they got to do it, and they don't go pedal to the metal the whole time. But it surprises me a little with this group because they've got great leaders. I mean, Rao, Ambrose. I mean, they got guys in that locker room.
Yeah, they do, and it's. I think what it also can indicate is how much we missed those 4 seniors from last year and what they contributed.
Mm-hmm.
A guy like Tom Serratori as a third line forward, but he'd get out there and he'd smoke guys left and right. Nate Condon, blinding speed. He could get down there. He could get behind the defense on the dump-ins and win that race.
Their line mates on the team.
Justin Hall, look at the big critical goal he got in the playoff game against North Dakota.
And Travis Boyd, injury time this year. I mean, then he's another one of those hard guys.
That's a big-time hurt.
Well, Travis Boyd fascinates me because another Glenn Sonmore story. But at a meeting at Hope's, there's a Chinese restaurant in Richfield. I think it's gone now, but Glenn says, I'm going to. He knew I went to Hopkins. He goes, I'm going to Hopkins Edina tonight. Jeff, you want to go to a high school hockey game? You got to see this kid Travis Boyd. He's in 9th grade. And I'd never heard of him. And Glenn's like, this kid, he's unbelievable. He's the whole team. And Alex Fonz was the goalie for Hopkins.
Okay.
And Edina had Anders Lee and Zach Budish and who was the other kid? But they had 3 big studs. But Budish was out with the knee.
Yeah.
But they had the 3 big studs, and I can't. But anyway, so I show up to the game with Glenn, and it was the coolest couple hours of my life because it's how like coaches and dignitaries, scouts, whatever, they get up in the corner and stay away from people.
Yeah.
So at the Edina Hopkins game, it's me, Glenn Sonmore, and Willard Eichel. I'm in an Edina hockey game with Willard Eichel and Glenn Sonmore. And if I wasn't cool enough, I'd get up in between periods to just stretch my legs, and I run into Troy Juddy, and he pulled me aside. He was still the coach at Mankato at the time, and he goes, Jeff, I swear to God, I've never seen a run in recruiting like the one Don is on right now. I mean, this is like when he's hauling in Gertler and that group. I mean, everyone was like a first-round pick. And I mean, he Fashy. I mean, it was like after Lettieri committed, and it's just boom, boom, boom. The dominoes just fell. And Troy said to me, Jeff, I've never seen a hotter coach in recruiting than Don is right now. I mean, he wants him, he gets him. I mean, that was a great run. I mean,
that was.
My understanding of it was that there were a lot of guys, Fashion and so on, that were waiting to see where Lettieri went, because Lettieri's a glue kind of a guy, a heart and soul kind of a guy. And once he signed, or once he committed to the U, it's like that whole group just kind of followed him.
Yeah. And Vinny's come along pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been impressed. He played center in high school. He's been more on the wing recently, except when Boyd was out, then we put him back in the middle.
Sure.
And I think his game really picked up. He got a couple of goals in one game. He's skating faster now, but he's got some good speed that I think a lot of people underestimate.
Yeah.
And he can fire the puck.
And I don't like to say that a guy works hard, because it sounds like, she's got a nice personality. He's an energy guy. It's almost like an insult. But an energy guy with skill is a different story. And that brings me back to Boyd. And we've got to take a break here quickly. But when I saw that Travis Boyd in the 9th grade, I mean, against Edina, I mean, he's the kind of kid who, he doesn't play in a great team with a lot of depth at Hopkins. So he's going end to end. I mean, he's just just circuitous routes around people and dangle this, and just the ultimate skill guy. Gets to the U and becomes the ultimate grind energy guy for 2-3 years, and then starts scoring on the power play last year, and he's one of the best offensive players on the team.
That's
so
why
he's
we
reinvented his reinvention.
He not only a regular shift, but he's a power play guy and a penalty killer.
And who else can really let it go on a power play is Connor Riley. My God,
he's got a shot.
Yeah, I mean
wicked good.
Yeah, he should have been on the power play from day one last year. I mean, he's not afraid either.
Well, he wasn't fully healed yet with that knee injury.
Right.
So and now this year he is, and you can
Yeah.
see the difference in his game.
Oh, but the shot. I mean, I like guys who are not afraid to let it go, especially on the power play.
Yeah.
That's what's wrong with the Wild. They get timid on the power play. But I digress. We got to take a quick break. We got 30 minutes to go in the show. Wally Shaver, Jeff Dubay, Jason McGovern. We are at Burger Mo's, which I should mention more than I have because this place is awesome. Wally's only about halfway through his burger.
And it's an awesome burger.
And you're playing adult hockey. You're playing old man hockey tonight, aren't you? That's gonna be a gut bomb.
Well, it's 10-15 games, so I should be digested.
Oh, you're
by then.
a goalie, right? You don't have to
No,
skate.
are you kidding me?
I thought you were.
No.
No, really?
No.
Oh,
I
I've
played
been lied
goalie
to.
twice in my life. I won one and lost one, and I figured that's it. I'm out of here at 500.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it. It's
That's what I
it's
thought.
like into the major leagues, getting a hit and retiring with 1,000 batting average. Quick break. Back to have the second half of the show after this.
I came to tell you something is coming.
Exodus, Gods and Kings is getting poor reviews. The big-budget biblical reboot about the story of Moses is directed by Gladiator's Ridley Scott. Christian Bale plays Moses, and he had one main commandment for doing this project.
No matter how many films you've done, it never stops being so much bloody fun riding on a horse, slashing through people, having some fights. You know, I mean, that's straight back to being 8 years old.
Comedian Chris Rock's movies typically get poor reviews, but his new movie, Top 5, is getting the best reviews of his Hollywood career.
Do you think the wedding is hurting me? Listen, Andre, the wedding is the best thing that you got going right now. If this thing flops, we could be talking Dancing with the Stars, man. Dancing with the Stars? That's where you're at right now.
Chris not only stars, he directed and wrote the film, and rewrote the film, and rewrote the film.
Dude, who knows, 100 drafts? I mean, even when you're editing, it's kind of rewriting.
Exodus, Gods and Kings, and Chris Rock's Top 5 are at theaters around town this weekend.
Okay, last year, 2013, I lived just down the road, Pleasant Avenue, just a few blocks here from Uptown Pond, which is right on the corner of Lake and Pleasant. And, there are a couple of times, you just try to get to that next payday, maybe a couple of bucks short. If you've got some items, jewelry, diamonds, electronics, I mean, you come down here and they give you a fair price for it, and then you come back a week later, 2 weeks later, whatever, you get it back at a real reasonable price.
So we're very competitive, we hope, on different angles, in different ends, and different articles. Computers, electronics, TVs, jewelry. We buy, we give loans, and we also have emphasis on diamond jewelry too, that we also try and give credit for the best we can. We're specialists in that area also, so it's an all-round sort of combination.
Well, it's a great place. It's a nice, clean place with honest people, and I tell you what, it's got a real family feel to it. As a matter of fact, it's tied into the Strauss family, and I go way back with the late, great Jerry. So, I mean, these are people I know and people I trust. You can find them on Twitter, too, by the way. They're at Uptown Pond, and also on Facebook, Uptown Pond, and uptownpond.net. And to the asshole on Lake Street, quit honking your horn when I'm recording a commercial at a pawn shop.
Trying to do a spot here.
Come on,
Excuse
man.
us.
Yeah, but you know what probably happened is he's strolling up to that Wendy's, saw it's closed, and hit his horn out of anger. I don't blame him. If that's the case, I'm going to give him some dispensation, because I was equally pissed. Wendy's do not go out of business.
Either that or he's about ready to run you over.
Oh, well,
could be that.
I'm not a popular guy in Uptown. I'm not gonna lie to you. Coincidentally, I'm moving back there next week, so back to the old hood, just right down Bryant from Bryant Lake Bowl. And I don't fit in with the Uptown crowd. We were talking about this yesterday. The hipsters and the whole City Pages crowd. They don't like me. Ever since I tried to debunk certain elements of global warming once on the Judd Dubay Show. Even though I have firsthand access to meteorologists, the scientists who study climate for a living, who told me that that's a lot of overblown hype. There might be some minor little changes in the climate, but nothing to be going Al Gore about. but it's just whatever. I'm just going to set myself up to get Aaron Rupert to be a dick again. So I'm just going to stop right now.
The Uptown crowd's not coming your way. Don't try to change them. Just deal with it.
I mean, I have black friends. I have gay friends. Get off my back, City Pages. Get off my back. No, I'm just being a smartass. I don't have any black friends.
I was gonna say.
I do
I
too.
bet you don't.
No,
I know for a fact you do.
I like making racist jokes because I'm not racist. It's yeah. But anyway, I digress.
Anyway,
let's. Wally, we mentioned the '88 tournament.
Yeah.
And you remember the game? Like Wernis he scored going down, and Cates made a great play. Hanging on to the puck, and in the third period after they'd blown it against Michigan State. But you were the analyst back then, and Frank was the play-by-play. Which gig do you enjoy more?
Well, that's a good question.
Thank you. I was working on that one.
I've done so much of both over the years. Frank and I, we've swapped roles now because he's doing the analyst and I'm doing the play-by-play. But yeah. I've done a lot of play-by-play over the years.
We call that a juxtaposition.
I suppose I like that a little bit better, but I've always tried to be a student of the game, and that's why I played the entire life, my entire life as an adult too, because I think that helps to keep you fresh and you understand situations more. Even though at my age I just can't, get around as quick or shoot as hard as I used to, but, or have the skill set or the mentality to do it. But you're involved in those situations, and I think that really helps from a broadcaster standpoint to be able to play the game, and you can relate to the situations these guys are going through.
Okay, another thing I want to ask you, I put you on the hot seat with this last year. What's up with all the against and defense? I mean, you're from Apple Valley. I mean, who are you kidding? You're not from Moose Jaw. You're from Apple Valley.
Edmonton.
Well, for what? When did you move when you were 6? That's like Vince Vaughn being from Minnesota. I mean, you lived there for a day. No, when did you move? What's your background?
I moved, we moved
by
a
the way,
lot.
I'm going to tell people right now, this man is not an American citizen.
No.
He is not. You've lived here for 50 years.
My wife gives me crap all the time when I complain about politicians. She
Just
says,
don't
if you became an American, you could vote. I said, there's only 2 things I can't do. I can't vote and I can't hold office, and I could really give a rat's ass about either.
Well, all right.
So,
I mean,
it ain't going to change the world, that's for sure.
Well, you're a hockey play-by-play guy. I mean, if a Canadian comes to the United States and remains a Canadian national, what kind of gigs are you going to get? The gig you got. I mean,
there you go.
In all seriousness. But I mean, I'm a little
top of your list, at least, of gigs you'd want.
I'm a little insulted that you don't want to be one of us.
No, well, I have nothing against you guys.
There he goes.
Hold on.
How many? Okay, I want to know right now. Is it like a let's make a deal moment? How many loonies do you have in your pocket?
0.
Oh, all right. That's
in fact, I've got some sitting in my dresser at home. I forgot to take up to Canada when I went and visited my folks back in September.
It's a coin, right? Is it a coin?
It's a coin.
A dollar coin?
And there's also a toonie.
What the hell is that?
It's a $2 coin.
Oh, I should have guessed that. Well, Canadians are idiots.
Remember the ill-fated? Remember our ill-fated $2 bills here?
How much is the 5e worth? I mean, Jesus Christ! It's like the same guy who named Canadian money named the teams in the MIAC, the Tommies and Johnnies and the Gusties. They spent a lot of time on these, just going over these nicknames. But in your run of Gopher hockey broadcasting, you've got to be overwhelmed. I mean, when it comes to the Gopher fan base and their rabid love of you and Frank, I mean, it's got to be overwhelming at times. I mean, if you like experience a moment of pain, of a headache or something, I got to believe you got 50 people knocking on your door with an Advil. I mean, they're so loyal to you and Frank. It's like you guys are the Godfathers.
I guess I don't know that. I don't.
No, I hear
seriously,
it.
I just don't pay attention.
The outrage
to that.
when Frank was removed.
We just try to do the job, as best we can. Do our research going into a weekend, and if there's Minnesota kids on the other team, we want to talk about those kids because hey. We know how many kids come out of the state to play Division I college hockey, Division III college hockey, pro hockey. There's a ton of them. And I think it's important to make mention of those kids because they're a fabric. I mean, they're the kid next door. That's what they are. That's the way I look at the Minnesota kids.
I mean, the level of outrage when Frank was removed as the play-by-play guy on TV it was palpable. I mean, people.
I know.
I mean, I was getting emails from people saying, "What the hell are they doing over there?" And I mean, I just thought, I'm not saying Frank should have been let go or should have. I think you guys. I mean, when you think over hockey and broadcasting, you think of you two first, and then McLeod second.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's not an insult to him either. But I'm just saying that the heat that came down from just the loyalty of the fans. I mean, to Frank. I mean, it was pretty impressive.
Well, and we don't understand it. Still to this day, Frank's gotten over it, but it took a while, and as rightfully it should.
Oh, you mean you didn't understand the removal?
He did it for why?
Yeah.
Why it happened?
Yeah.
I mean, he'd been doing it for 20-some years,
right.
And as Minnesotans, I think we get used to the familiarity of the people that we're listening to.
No, we like it,
and that's just the way it went.
I think that Tom Bernard guy's got a chance to catch him.
Yeah. Rumor has it he's still okay.
Yeah, that Steve Canada guy did okay too.
Yeah.
But you know what? He did survive a number of management changes. That was not a very. Well, I shouldn't even say that because we were 29. The kitten that roars. The kitten that roars. I'm sure Montgomery doesn't remember the kitten that roars. I don't. I mean, I still have a videotape of that Michigan State game, and I mean, there's like a Hams commercial where someone from the land of sky blue waters, he's fishing with waders. I'm like, Jesus Christ, it's like going into a time machine. The kitten that roars.
I'll tell you how that came about to get Gopher hockey on TV. That was when Frank and I were doing the North Stars games.
Okay.
And we were on the. It started off at Spectrum Sports, then it became Twin Star.
Spectrum had some dirty stuff on too. I mean, dirty stuff.
I know what channel you were watching.
It was scrambled, but
there was only 3 of them.
I was 15 before I found out boobs aren't blue. But anyway, I digress.
But we were on KITN with the North Stars games, and Dale Palachek was the program director at the station at the time, and he came up to us, and it was the first year of Doug Woog as a coach, And they'd gotten the Gophers all the way into the playoffs. And Dale asked me, he says, what do you think if we picked up some Gopher hockey games? Do you think there'd be a following for it? I said, Dale, you wouldn't believe the following there is for college hockey around here.
That almost sounds like a dumb question.
It might be even bigger than North Stars hockey, because so many people grow up with that program, have attended the school, and they live here, they reside here, they work here. They're very identifiable with Gopher hockey.
Sure.
And so we picked it up, and literally the rest is history. This was a smashing success. We did the playoff games that year. We had to go out to Denver and play, and that's when Ralph Backstrom was coaching out there. And it was Doug Woog's first year here, and then we just continued to do it for years on end. And actually, when Twin Star evolved into Midwest Sports Channel, Gopher games went along with that, obviously, because they needed some programming to fill.
Sure. And if what I would say to Frank, and this is not at all to endorse his dismissal or his firing, I would, rather than dwell on why did I have to get let go, I'd like to say, Frank, congratulations on surviving 30 years, multiple bosses, numerous stations, different managements, and there's been some goofy management over there over the years. I mean, that's not a lie. The MSC, FSN, there's been some goofballs over there making decisions. I mean, the fact that Matt Hoover is unemployed, not unemployed, but isn't there anymore, is bizarre to me. But I mean, for Frank to last through all the years, through all the channels, through all the managements, that's a testament. I mean, that means something.
Well, and the opportunity came when Glenn retired from doing radio work with me, and the opportunity was there for people to talk with Greg Gerlach, our general manager at Gopher Sports
Properties.
Nice
guy, too.
And Greg is, and he gets the whole picture. That's what I like about Greg. He's got a good concept of how sports work in this town. He's been selling it for a long time. He was with the Wild when they first started up selling sponsorships, and he's been the leader over at Gopher Sports Properties. But
he was my boss too. So I've done the Lucia show.
He talked to a few people, and Frank's the guy. And Frank,
absolutely.
Frank knows the business, and he knows the game.
Yes, he does, and the people love him. I mean, to me, when it comes to broadcasters, whether the DJs, talk show hosts, play-by-play guys, analysts, anchormen, anything, any kind of TV, radio, broadcast personality. To me, there's two elements that you need to succeed. Number one, you have to be good. I mean, you have to know what you're doing. And number two, you have to be likable. I don't care how good you are. If you come into this town and you're some smug asshole, we're gonna sweep you right out of here. I mean, and when it comes to guys like you, Rosen, Frank, I mean, we're talking likability off the charts. I mean, you could go insane tomorrow and speak in tongues next week, but people still like you on the air because you're a nice guy. I mean, seriously. I mean, your head gets spin, you can spit a pea soup. And they'd say, but he's a hell of a guy. Keep him on.
I've just tried to follow in the footsteps of my dad. And Wally Shaver, he's a Hall of Fame broadcaster, in the Hall of Fame, and
he should be in the Hall of Fame for good people too.
Yeah, he is. And I always, when I decided I wanted to get into this business and be a hockey broadcaster, I emulated him. And why not?
Well, how could you not?
Yeah. I just love the show. He shoots, he scores. It was something that was a trademark of his. I actually, when I was up there in September, I asked him, I said, all those years you did hockey, was there anything that you'd do different as a broadcaster?
Not have kids. No, I'm just kidding.
Ooh. But he said, I wish I would have had a little slogan after a goal was scored. I said, really? That seems like so 2000s. Where guys got to have a shtick.
Everybody's got a catchphrase.
Well, I haven't had a stick. He grew up with Foster Hewitt.
I don't know who that is.
He was the first guy to do radio broadcasting of hockey. He did it for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Okay. Wow.
And he had the gondola in the old Maple Leaf Gardens. And he was an icon across Canada because that's all you heard. You heard Toronto Maple Leaf hockey across Canada.
And let's face it, when it comes to your major sports, hockey is by far the most challenging on radio. I mean, it's you got to be good, you got to be fast. It's a hard sport to follow on the radio. I mean, baseball is made for
but I
radio.
don't know because I haven't done that much of other sports. I've done a wee bit of basketball, a wee bit of baseball.
Baseball's
I've never
got such
done
a comfortable
football.
pace.
Baseball would be the easiest.
They're spinning yarns, and it's just a casual feel.
I almost think that could be tougher because you got to have a lot of BS with you, a lot of stories.
But that was what was great about Carneal was he would just sit there.
Well, Vince
just
Scully.
let it go for 15 seconds, 20 seconds, then come back and strike one.
But Vince Scully,
and then shut up again. I love that.
Vince Scully does games by himself. He didn't have an analyst. Didn't he just tell stories and? And he's like 105, but it doesn't matter. I mean, he's still just amazing at it.
Yeah.
I mean, the greats of the greats. We're going to have one more break here, and we're starting to run a little bit out of time. And I want to just give me like 2 or 3 of your best Gopher hockey memories.
Well, certainly the top one, and it was probably my favorite memory of all time, was the 0-2 championship.
The Yahoo game.
That was just, I mean, that was
your trademark.
Glenn and I were just in sheer joy. I mean, we were as soon as that goal went in, we became fans.
Yeah.
I mean, how could you not?
Were you jumping up and down?
Oh yeah. Glenn was jumping as high as he could, but
Yeah.
I was bouncing off the ceiling.
Well, I mean, you know, the best thing about Glenn is you always got just raw emotion from him. He gets so pissed at the refs. I mean, he obviously. I mean, he was a self-professed homer, and I loved how he would, give the 3 stars every game to the Gophers if they lost 7-1. It didn't matter. He'd say, "I don't care. I'm not giving one to this other team." I mean, he was almost like a curmudgeon about it. It's like I'm a homer, and I dare you to do something about it.
And one of my favorite moments with Gopher hockey too. Was last year that .6, especially beating North Dakota. That's always a real slice of heaven.
Yeah.
But I also go back to the series a few years ago when we played Minnesota State. It was a best of 3. All 3 games went into overtime.
Yes.
I think by the time that thing ended, we had figured out it was like 4.5 games worth of hockey in 3 games.
Mike Carmen in game 2 extended it to the deciding game 3 with that he just roofed a wrister in overtime.
And those 2 goalies were just unconscious in that series.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
It was so good, and the hockey was so intense, and the guys just laid it out on the line, and that's what you like to see.
Okay, I'm going to do a couple quickies here. The best Gopher hockey team you've seen. I'm going to say I think the best was the Vanek freshman team that beat New Hampshire. That's the best I've seen.
Yeah,
I can't go back to 79.
That was a good one, but also Woogie's year when we played Harvard in the championship at the old Civic Center. That was a hell of a team.
Okay, your favorite plucky overachieving team, and I'm going to start it off again. I thought the '94 team had brass balls. They came out of the gate slow. That was McHugh and Nielsen, Bianchi. They beat Rolison and Lowell in the regional.
Yeah, and I wasn't doing the games back then, so I didn't see as many of those games.
That team was thin. That team was slow to go out of the gate. They weren't loaded, and they went into the college hockey showcase weekend really struggling, and they got their asses kicked by Michigan. And then they came back with just an amazing 6-5 win over Michigan State the next day.
Yeah.
That kind of got them going, and they won 2 games in Wisconsin that year that were just phenomenal. Like McHugh, actually it was the Saturday night game. They were down 2-0 going into the third. It was the game where Fairchild threw one into the net and got away with it.
Yes.
And then McHugh exploded in the third to bring us back, and Means got the game winner. But, I mean that '94 team had, they had players. I mean, they had McAlpine, they had Nielsen, they had Bianchi. Callahan had a good year, but it wasn't a loaded squad. It wasn't a loaded squad. I mean, for them to get to the Frozen Four, which they wound up losing at the Civic Center to BU.
That's right.
Who was very good.
That was a very good team too.
The biggest disappointment Gopher team.
Biggest disappointment, you almost might have to say that Holy Cross game losing, and even Yale, because nobody expected Yale to do as well as they did that year.
Right.
But they went on, they beat North Dakota the next night, then they went on and won both games and were national champs. And I don't think people saw that coming. I think they went in as like the number 15 seed, if I recall.
Yeah, they were at the very bottom of the
rank. And they weren't a bad team, but I think they really hit on all cylinders at the right time.
They got hot at the right time. For me, it's kind of a tie between the Holy Cross team because that team was loaded. I mean, Ehrman, Patolny. I mean, Patolny had 38 goals.
Yeah, I know.
That's a sick number. How do you not get into the Hobie hat trick? By the way, that's your fault. You're on the Hobie. He had 38 goals.
We just implement. We don't vote.
But the other one, and I mean, this from just a pure NHL talent standpoint, might be the best team I've seen here. 1992, and they went to the Joe and got smoked by Lake State.
Yes.
But I mean, that was Klatt and Johnson and Olam and Richards and Zmolik. I mean, it was.
Yeah,
insane.
you look how many guys played pro off of that team.
It was a big Darby Hendrickson team. I mean, that team was loaded.
It was.
And
that might be the one team.
That's the first year of the regional, by the way. I mean, because I remember thinking to myself, this would happen this year because we would have been the 1 seed all throughout the tournament, never left Mariucci.
Yeah.
I mean, that team would have never left home because they had the great record. But we get shipped over to Detroit, and you play there was a stretch from the late 80s to the mid 90s where the last team you wanted to see in March was Lake Superior State. I mean, just good. I mean, Jeff Jackson had something going on in the postseason.
Jeff Jackson's a whale of a coach.
Yeah, he is. And his hair hasn't changed in like 20 years.
No, it hasn't.
I mean, it was white when he's 40 years old.
Yeah.
But I mean, but I knew when he went to Notre Dame.
What a class guy.
He was gonna be a sleeping giant.
Yeah.
Woken up over there. Let's take our final break and back to wrap it up with Wally Shaver and Jason McGovern. I'm Jeff Dubay. It's a Wild Wednesday kind of college hockey edition on the Jeff Dubay Show. Folks who've listened to the show, they know that I lived in the Uptown area here, right down Pleasant Avenue, as a matter of fact, and on the corner of Pleasant Lake is where Uptown Pond is. And I have been here numerous times, had numerous business dealings with them. It's just a nice place with good, honest people. Bob Jacobson, the owner, you run the place. You've always been good to me.
Thanks, Jeff. We try. That's part of our business. We're here to help people, and so everybody walks in the door. We hope we can help.
Well, what I've always appreciated is when people are nice to people who are the low man on the totem pole. Like when I was a bat boy, I liked the star guys who were nice to the bat boy.
Right.
And I mean, I came in here and you guys didn't know who I was. You didn't know I had a radio show, and you treated me great. I mean, just a guy off the street.
Listen, that's the idea with I think a smaller family type business. Somebody walks in the door, we don't want to let them see everybody gets treated the same way, and we hope that's the case. And we don't want to see them leave without. We try our very best.
It's really easy. It's easy. It's low pressure. Good, honest people. Right on the corner of Lake Street and Pleasant Avenue. You guys got to check out Uptown Pond.
Hi, I'm Terry Daniel, and I've been a voice actor in Minneapolis for over 2 decades now. How often are you getting compliments on your voice? Now is the time to do something about it. If you're interested in getting into voiceovers, please contact me via my website at universalvoicetalent.com.
We're back, Jeff Dubay Show live at Burger Mo's. Getting back to disappointing teams, and I talked about this earlier this week on the show. It's not a Rubik's Cube, it's a headset. Put it on for that. Look at him over here.
Is this your first time broadcasting?
My goodness. But you want to know what other team was ultimately really disappointing? It was 81. I mean, because that team was loaded with Olympic talent that had just come back, brought in, and they were untouchable all year long. And the Backdoor Badgers, who I still to this day maintain are not the Backdoor Badgers because they got in the tournament. They are the Backdoor Badgers because they got fucked up the ass all the time by their teammates. That's I can say stuff like that on a podcast. But I mean, the
notice he didn't touch it.
The Backdoor Badgers took them out at the deck in the national title game, and the Gophers were a far superior team. But I got to know Steve Alseth a little bit. He was working for Mission Hockey. And he told me that he said basically that week was a shit show. I mean, you had guys signing contracts in the in the hotel lobby, out in front of everybody, like before the games even started. I mean, he just said it was just like, Sodom and Gomorrah, whatever anybody wants, you get. And the game became just secondary, and it showed.
And it's too bad it had to work
great.
that way.
Yeah,
but that's changed somewhat. And you don't see that kind of stuff going on, but you still know that these family advisors are still talking with these guys all along and giving them their 2 bits worth.
Well, it's a unique situation
scene these days, though.
Well, and things have changed. Let me ask you this: have things changed? No, they haven't. And this is what Don wanted to get changed. He this all became an issue when Oposo was pulled out of here by the Islanders, and I say pulled out of here as opposed to left because he had no choice. I hope people have come to the conclusion by now. I mean, Garth Snow leaned on him, and what are you going to do? This is your boss for the next 10 years. Tell him to F off. I mean, he got leaned on. He got put in a bad position. I got nothing but respect for Kyle Oposo. But Don's problem was that, if the guys drafted from the Canadian juniors, you got to send it. If you don't want them, you send it back, and you can't touch them.
Right.
But in college, I mean, you could. It doesn't matter what day of the week, what month of the year you want them, you get them. And that's an unbalanced playing field.
Yeah, and it is. That's tough. That's a tough thing to work around because there are different sets of rules. And I think why you see so many college kids also in the National Hockey League these days is because when you draft a kid out of Canadian junior, you pay that junior team some money. You don't pay colleges money.
Huh. Interesting. But
it's a big difference if you've got a budget to work with.
And I certainly don't want to misquote Don or mistake his point, but I want to say he was championing a system similar to what they have in baseball. Like you draft a kid out of high school, but if he goes to college, you lose him, and he goes back in the draft in the future. I mean, the Twins have lost. The Twins drafted Jason Varitek out of high school, and then he said, "No, I'm going to Georgia Tech. Sorry." They lose that pick. I mean, he's not theirs to negotiate with at the end of every season like a college hockey kid.
Yeah.
And I think that's a pretty good system.
Yeah. I don't know all the mechanics of that. I just don't worry about it because it is what it is. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen.
The Oposo thing I thought was a warning shot, though, but it hasn't turned out to be.
I don't know if he was 100% committed to come back anyways because his roommate, don't forget, the year before was Eric Johnson, and he basically just checked out in the spring. I mean, he knew he was going to go pro. He was the number 1 overall draft pick.
Right. I think it was cool that he even played a year. I mean, the number 1 overall draft pick playing in college hockey was pretty cool. But the guy who mailed it in, unlike any other, to me, was Jordan Schrader. His sophomore year, he didn't want to be there, and they did. And I do remember this being an issue that he went to the World Juniors and blew up, but he did honor his commitment to his teammates by coming back, and he could have gone. I mean, that's why we'll give him some credit. But he came back and kind of mailed it in.
Yeah, and you just don't know sometimes what goes through kids' heads. You know how much influence is coming from the family, how much is coming from their agent, how much is coming from the team that drafted him. You know, so there's a lot of mechanics that go into these decisions. But it's that why right now with college hockey you have to worry about when you've got a guy going into his junior year, because after that year the NHL teams want to sign these guys.
Yeah,
if they
become a free agent,
they become a free agent after their senior year.
Mm-hmm.
Some guys have elected to go that route, others haven't. You know, that's why I like guys like a Brendan Morrison or Jordan Leopold who wanted to come back and be a leader as a captain, and they weren't going to bail out on the team that drafted them. But they just wanted to have that senior experience and have one last kick at the can.
Does that translate and help them in the NHL? I mean, have we seen where that staying that extra year is a good thing, or are the NHL teams going to be upset about that?
It was for Blake Wheeler because he called his own shot. Blake Wheeler stayed and became a free agent.
Yeah, Blake Wheeler did. That's one of the few occasions where you did. And maybe he could just see where he was going to be in the pecking order of the team that drafted him. But
I can't remember who it was.
I can't remember either.
I mean, he signed with Boston as a free agent, but they did not draft him.
No.
That escapes me. But yeah, he's the first person I remember really exercising that rule.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot that have done that.
He's the Kurt Flood of college hockey.
But I think, Jason, like you're saying, it's not bad to come back and play your senior year. I mean, you got one more year of maturity, one more year to get bigger and stronger.
Getting laid like crazy. I mean, let's face it.
Well, there's all those kind of perks too. Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
I used to hang out with these guys. I mean, I know Leo pretty good. I know how these things work. No, Leo's practically married in college. I mean, his wife is his college sweetheart. Miss Teen, Minnesota, by the way. Well done, Leo. Well done.
Yeah. Imagine that a good hockey player got Miss Teen.
I tell you what, though, it is a shame that Leo had the injury problems he had in his career. I mean, because what a talented kid, what a good kid, what just a straight shooting square kid. But the problem he had, the way I explained it to PA myself, in Calgary, you know, they said, you know, we want you to go. You know, we're going to let you loose. Go be out. You know, rush the puck. You know, take chances. And then Regehr and the other guy show up. The other defenseman that they were with Regehr back in the day, and they said, okay, now Jordan, you stay back. Let these guys go. And it's like they kept changing his role and telling him different things. And plus he's in Calgary, so he's probably got a little college bias against him.
Yeah.
I mean, back in the day. But
it's one of those things too. He's a survivor. He's been in the National Hockey League a long time, despite the injuries that he's had. He's a good, serviceable, depending on which team, third, fourth, fifth defenseman.
Sure.
And I think that's the role he's accepted. He understands what he has to do to survive in that league, and I think he's fulfilled that wonderfully.
You know who's the best subtle? You know, who's the best defenseman in the most subtle ways is Paul Martin.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing flashy about him, and he never does anything wrong.
That's what I was going to say, because he just doesn't make mistakes.
No.
So smooth.
Yeah.
He was that way playing here with the Gophers. Came in as kind of a gangly kid, but he put on enough bulk while he was here, was just a stud of a defenseman for us.
Yes.
And he's been a top 4 guy the entire time he's been in the NHL.
And lest we forget, he without him in 2003, you know, diving through the crease to stop a shot against Michigan, we don't get to the national title game.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
he's very responsible for that ring. He's the kind of guy, Paulie is, that you have to watch play multiple games. If you sit and watch one game, he might not jump out at you because he doesn't dangle or he's not fancy or flashy. But I mean, you watch him for a season. Like, did he do anything wrong this year? I mean, did he make a mistake this year? And just like he's robo defenseman. I mean, he's just
Paul was always so good at making that outlet pass.
Yeah.
And that's still one of the most important, critical plays in all of hockey is to get that rush going up ice.
Absolutely.
And he doesn't make many mistakes doing that.
I mean, in this day and age where you cannot afford to turn it over at the blue line, you got guys who have to make quick decisions on to kind of carry it, do I have to dump it, and that all is a byproduct of how quickly that pass gets to you.
Yep.
Not to mention, you don't want a forecheck on you. I mean, once a forecheck gets on you, I mean, I think the number one thing the Gopher defense has had going forward over the years is speed. I mean, they get on the puck fast. Yeah. It's hard to set up a forecheck.
Well, and certain guys think faster too.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's what Paul Martin was. I always liked him because we'd be on the plane trips going off somewhere, and he'd open the book bag. He'd be hitting the books.
What a nerd.
Yeah.
He's a great kid. But you were talking about Riley's lateral movement. You know who I always loved? He never played at the next level as far as I know, but I was always a big Mikey Vanelli guy because that guy could move along. Like on the power play, people would be going down to block shots, and he just did a little pirouette and just the lateral movement on the blue line. I don't think he got many shots blocked. He could get it through.
He could get it through.
He was very patient, very poised.
Yeah.
I mean, I always really thought he was a solid college hockey player.
That comes from a Vanelli hockey family, though. Don's made the point before, but you can always tell a player who's coming up that's been a coach's kid.
Yeah.
They know the game better.
Sure.
They really do.
Yeah. No, and that's what got Tony through. Tony didn't have a ton of raw ability, but he worked his ass off, and he's smarter than him.
Yeah.
And he pissed off the opponent constantly.
Yes.
Boy, is he an instigator. Well, he was. I mean, that was his game.
I like Tony.
No, absolutely.
And that had to be a challenging time for Don to. And even when Doug Woog had his son playing for him, that's a real tough thing to do,
absolutely.
to have your kid playing for you.
Yeah. I mean, especially when it's.
There's always second guessing from the fans.
Well, and the thing is.
Well, and that's true when they're 10 years old.
Well,
So you get to that level.
Well,
right.
I tell you what. I mean, I don't want to tell secrets out of school, but I mean, Don deals with hockey parents. I mean, there was a little rivalry with the Kessel parents and the Petone parents about, hey, Brian's been here, he's the star of the team.
Yeah.
Phil's coming in as the big NHL draft. I mean, I think the guys got along great, but the parents tried to get in Don's ear about power play time. It's like your kid's in college. I mean, stop doing. You're not a hockey mom anymore. You're just a fan.
And here's the one thing almost all parents forget. As successful as the Gophers have been over the years that Don's been here, now he's now in his 16th year.
Yeah.
There's 16 former Gophers in the NHL. So that tells you, on average, as loaded as this team is, and currently this team has 15 NHL draft picks on it. Mm-hmm. But there's
Every defenseman is drafted.
There's an average of one guy a year coming off of this team and succeeding in the NHL. That's how slim a margin we're working with, and most parents don't get that.
Right.
Well, and we're talking about the Yankees of college hockey.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, so one out of them each year. That's insane.
And in recent years, the number's greater. I think it was a slow-to-go start when he got here because the college hockey player, in general, the American college hockey player wasn't going to the NHL as frequently. And, I mean, he had some rebuilding to do along the way, too. But, I mean, in recent years, you see 2-3 guys a year that off each team that are getting up there. Like with Nats and but you're right.
The guys that make it and stick.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan Petone didn't make it. I thought Ryan was a no-brainer. I thought Danny Ehrman, with the speed and the size and the grittiness, I thought Danny Ehrman was a lock.
And I thought Ryan would, because Grant and I used to talk about, say, oh, how's your brother doing? And he was having a great year with Edmonton. Then all of a sudden, Edmonton cut some loose because they started drafting all these guys.
And they suck.
And they still suck.
Yeah.
They can't seem to do it with all these number ones. They're down at the bottom of the league again.
I remember when Ryan was coming up, I would ask Grant, when Grant was still playing, I'd say, what kind of player is he? He said, he's nothing like me. He's skill. I mean, he's all skill. Goal scoring is you're born to score. I mean, you can't teach a guy to score. Right? That's why people are so upset with Vanek. I mean, he's playing well and setting up goals and leading the team in assists. But in all honesty, while he's doing good things, a lot of people could dish it. And not many people can bury it.
Yeah.
I mean, those are few and far between. And that they need him to score.
I agree.
But I mean, Ryan Petone had 38 goals. But I don't think people understand what a huge number that is.
I
mean, that's like a Micheletti number. But that's from like the early 80s.
Yeah.
I mean, things have changed. It's tough to get 38 goals.
Oh, it is. I mean, I look at being on the Hobey Baker publicity committee.
Yeah, you screwed that one up.
You look at these guys that are leading scorers. I mean, a guy leading the nation in scoring now is, getting 60, 70 points is all.
Yeah, the Broughtons were in the low 100s.
Hundreds.
Yeah.
Neil Broughton one year, he had over 100 points. He was third on the team.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, this is before you were around to screw up the Hobey Baker. But people who know say Aaron should have won it that year, but they gave it to Neil because they wanted him up. He was the bigger star. He was on the Olympic team. They wanted the bigger name to be their inaugural one.
I think his reputation preceded him.
Yeah, I mean, they're both great players. It's not like he was not worthy, but Aaron outscored him that year. Now, probably, by most accounts, outplayed him. But two great players. But we actually did 62 minutes. That's how important you are.
Hey, all right. We did overtime.
We started like your feet in your face. But I mean, you never wanted to show up early. I remember that much from last year.
Wow.
We were like 10 minutes late for the first show. Like the
snowstorm.
I don't remember who hosted in our absence.
Actually, our SID Brian Deutsch.
Yes, he
we
hosted.
Said, Brian, you got to ask a question. And thank God Don realized the situation. He gave like a 10-minute answer.
Yeah. All right, well, thanks, Wally. Thanks for coming to bail me out.
My pleasure.
Well, I'd love to do it again sometime.
Let's.
And maybe going into the NCAA tournament because that'll be an exciting time around here.
It will.
Thanks to Burger Bones, as always. We did plug a single show on the network today, didn't we?
I'll do it on our show.
Yes, thank you.
Minnesota Pubcast coming up, aliveandsocial.com. We'll talk about it all on our show.
Perfect. I'm out. I got no second tonight. I'm too good a mood.